This episode is brought to you by Buzzshot, Cogs by Clockwork Dog, PG's Playhouse, and Patreon supporters like you.
Hey, escape room owners. Are you still trying to solve the marketing puzzle? Buzzshot to the rescue. Buzzshot is the secret weapon powering business growth and improving the customer experience. This is software with a ton of pre- and post-game features, including waiver management, creating incredible branded team photos, and streamlined review management for Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, wherever people review. And they also offer integrations with Cogs. Automations is one of the best ways to run your escape room business more efficiently. There are a ton of things you can do, including automated marketing emails to automatically advertise your second room to all the players who have already played the first game. Buzzshot can also automate uploading post-game photos directly to Facebook albums. There are a ton of other features, so check out Buzzshot today.
Dave Milligan of Time Escape says, Buzzshot is the best automation for the most awkward but crucial tasks and is invaluable in our marketing strategy. Streamline your marketing and grow your escape room business. Repod listeners get an extended free trial and 20% off your first 3 months with no setup fees or hidden charges. Visit buzzshot.com/repod, that's REPOD, to learn more. Link and details in the show notes. Welcome to the Reality Escape Pod, your lifeline when you need a getaway from the real world. I'm David Spira, alongside my co-host, PG Law. Together, we're exploring immersive gaming from all angles, and we'll be joined by guests who really know their stuff. Today's guests are Steven and Stevie Kristof, co-creators of 62 Escape in Schaumburg and Gurnee, Illinois, as well as Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They are also longtime haunters with Realm of Terror, Haunted House, and they recently added a mini golf venue named Putt Portal to their ever-growing portfolio of immersive businesses. Welcome, Steven and Stevie.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys can't see this because this is an audio podcast, but when David said, we'll be joined by guests who really know our stuff, Steve and Stevie turned to each other and were like, who, us?
Yeah, it's a bold statement you made, but I'm going to go ahead and take it. We'll roll with it.
Yeah, you guys, that's who we're talking about. And I haven't had a chance to play your games, but David has been raving about them ever since he took a big old group on an escape room tour up to play your games. And so I'm really excited to learn all about them.
Indeed. Before we go further, there are some extra guests on this episode in the form of your birds. Care to introduce them to us?
The Jack and Elle, our Kaik parrots, are squawking away in the background. There's nothing we can do about it. They're just going to be part of the podcast here.
Can we get photos of them to include in the show notes so people can join in on the bird fun?
Sure, we'll send you some photos.
Amazing.
So I do know that all of your escape room locations are inside big, giant shopping malls. What has that experience been like for you?
10 years ago, we opened the Gurnee location. We opened that in 2016 at the Gurnee Mills Shopping Center. We've expanded that location twice now. It started at about half the size it was, and we took over some neighboring spaces as we expanded the location. But early on, especially in the original days of the escape rooms, I don't think there was a huge standard for where an escape room should be located. A lot of them were located in kind of remote locations, off in a warehouse somewhere. In a semi-trailer was probably the first escape room style experience I ever played. So when we decided to make the transition and jump into the escape room world, we really just looked to places that were going to be valuable real estate, places people knew, and naturally looking into the Gurnee Mills venue just made sense. It was a nice fit for us, and ultimately something that we've continued to expand on with the Simon Property Group as we've opened additional locations in Schaumburg and Milwaukee.
It certainly seems like it is going well for you. And I am curious because in the escape room community, mall escape rooms is generally a derogatory term because so many of the escape rooms that you find in malls are generally pretty bad. That is clearly not the case with your work, but I am wondering, is this an assumption that you find yourself having to navigate with escape room players?
Not specifically in our instance. Within the escape room community, sure.
Mm-hmm.
As the industry has matured a bit, we start to get people who have gone to other locations, other venues. There certainly ends up being a stereotype, but on our end, I think what we hear more is people going, "Oh, you're in the mall. Aren't malls dying? Aren't malls going away?" So that's where most of the surprise, I think, comes from. On our end, as far as keeping quality high, that's a standard that we've strove to achieve throughout the years. As far as breaking the expectation with that, it really just comes down to developing high quality experiences and delivering on the promise from your marketing all the way to the end of the experience.
I mean, that makes sense. And speaking to the malls that you're in, especially the Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg, Illinois, that is by far the most lively mall that I have seen in decades. It felt like stepping into a portal back 20 years. Why do you think that specific mall is so alive when so many feel so dead?
In regards to that mall specifically, it's hard to say. It's kind of always been that way. We're local to the area, but it's right up there on par with some of the other larger mall venues in America. The Mall of America, Woodfield Mall, they're just some of the regional highlights. I think for our specific region in the Midwest here, Woodfield Mall ends up being unique in its placement. There's a ton of corporate America right there, but also very close to O'Hare Airport. So we get a ton of travel and tourism. People that come into Chicago through O'Hare a lot of times don't realize that they're still 30 minutes outside of the city proper. If you have a layover or if you have anything going on, or if you're just staying in the area for a night, you naturally end up in either Schaumburg or Rosemont, which are only 5 miles apart. But that tends to be where the tourism in this area has landed. We're very fortunate to be in kind of an entertainment mecca of Chicago out here. I mean, Legoland, Peppa Pig's World of Play is inside Woodfield Mall. There's a Medieval Times right here in Schaumburg. It's where a lot of the national brands end up building something, and flagships end up right there at Woodfield. We don't necessarily focus so much on being 60 to escape in the mouths of our customers. People tend to remember it, but they remember that they did one at Woodfield. They remember they did one at Gurney Mills. They know they did one at Southridge. If you talk to somebody about which escape room they did in Chicago, they go, "Oh, I think it was a prison theme," and I could ramble off 3 venues, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"I don't think any of them are it." And then they'll pull it up, and then one of them was it. They just don't necessarily take away the brand every time, because we all have escape in our name or something similar. I know it was an escape room, but hopefully in our case, the one thing they do take away is they know, well, it was at Woodfield. When it comes to benefits and risks within the malls, for us, the benefits have been location notoriety. People know where we're at. That's always been the case, and that's ultimately why we've decided to continue to build and expand within the malls. The risks really come down to, still, even now with malls being the way they are, high rents. We trade what we could save in rent for hopefully a better location, and we're oftentimes locked into the hours of a mall. For us, we've found that to be pretty fortunate overall. If we had the option, I don't even know if we would be open past 10 o'clock as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to just have somebody say, "No, you're closing at 9 o'clock." And that's just kind of where we're locked into. But when we have opportunities that exist beyond those hours, even like when we did the tour with you, David, we had to get special allowances to get people into the mall early or get them to leave doors unlocked, things like that, so that we're able to get people in and out of our venue, which can certainly be a challenge at times.
I remember, and I appreciate that you and your crew took care of that for us. Let's talk about some of your games. We can't discuss all of them because, oh my, you have built quite a few of them.
We certainly have. We've built, including games we've retired, close to 20 individual experiences across the 3 locations.
Wow, that is incredibly prolific.
I wasn't being hyperbolic.
We really have not repeated too many games. We've only ever repeated one theme. We've alluded to other themes in a couple of the games like Lockbuster, but we really have not duplicated too many games. That's been kind of our company mythos, at least as we've expanded throughout the Midwest. We've wanted to be able to continue to create experiences that people can come to a location, experience something totally different, spot to spot, place to place.
As we explore some of your games, I'd like to start with what feels to me like your current marquee game in Lockbuster Video. Talk to me a bit about the vision for this game.
Well, calling Lockbuster the marquee game is actually kind of funny.
It's not big, but it is mighty.
Yeah. So I think an important part of this discussion is to kind of understand mine and Stevie's roles within 62 Escape.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So myself, I end up more on the conceptual side. My background was growing up in a family entertainment center, go-karts, miniature golf, arcade. I still serve as an arcade repairman to this day. So when it comes to dreaming up the space, dreaming up the concept, a lot of that comes out of my brain. And when it gets down to the nitty gritty, the aesthetics, the puzzles, the individual bits and pieces, that all falls in Stevie's court. I tend to handle on the company side more of the business stuff, and she handles a lot of the individual in the space creative stuff. And together we're able to delegate what we do out pretty well as a team and create some really exciting experiences for people. In talking about Lockbuster, within the escape room space specifically, nostalgia plays really well.
And a lot of your games also.
Yeah, and that's a big part of, I think, what we do. And I think there's an important comparison when it comes to like things that we're trying to drive on. We're always trying to build on an emotional response from people. And that's certainly easier to do and easier to connect with when you're connecting with something that's inherently built into everybody's brain, something they've either had experience with previously or something we've all lived, and then being able to take that and make it fantastic. If you go back in time, before immersive was such a buzzword or such a concept for people, if you go even just the early 90s, the concept of like a 50s diner, they were everywhere.
Yeah, the Johnny Rockets era.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those are important to look at as the roots of where the pop-up bar space is, where immersive experiences draw from, not just theme parks, but these things that in your local town you could go to and step into a different era, a different thing, and experience something new or different. So as we develop different themes and different concepts, we try to not dive too far outside the norm, at least in the initial concept. So with Lockbuster Video, a lot of it just came from trying to create a space that felt familiar to our target audience, the people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s now, looking to re-experience the nostalgia of a time past when you could walk in and pay money for physical media, which just isn't a thing anymore, and then figuring out how to make that fantastic or different.
So, Stevie, when you're going to build out that vision, what are the things that you're prioritizing? How are you going about breathing life into that?
So I'm more of the puzzle master part of it. Steve is always, I like to call him the mad genius of it. He's the one who gets the whole storyline down, the vision for it. And then I'm the one who goes and does the mad scientist part where I've got papers everywhere. I've got flow charts, making sure that the room is playable and making sure that the puzzles make sense, but within the theme that he wants to create. I usually end up the first few weeks of working on a new game, I'm just sitting there with paper around me, making little models of puzzles, and then making people play those puzzles to make sure the puzzles make sense to other people, and then going in and actually implementing them into the game in a way that is realistic to a point, you know, like how to make this set become a puzzle, but also it's still a puzzle.
I get that. And there's a lot of that going on specifically in Lockbuster in terms of that space feels more alive than most escape rooms do. What were the biggest challenges that you both encountered in bringing your two halves of this together?
Finding DVDs.
Eventually we learned you can just buy them by the pound. But first... it was scrounging for, okay, well, you know, you want things that relate to people. If you buy them by the pound, you don't know what you're going to get. And when you get the ones that came from the back rooms of a family video, that's a different escape room altogether. But on our end, it was, or at least on my side of it, figuring out, what exactly we wanted the game to be. Ultimately, the idea came from that original concept of step into the movies, figure out how that was going to relate to the overall theme. I draw a lot of inspiration. You can see that in a lot of our games from the way I was brought up. I was raised in an arcade. So, the concept of audio animatronics as a form of entertainment certainly isn't something that's lost on me, and it happens to be in a lot of the different games. When we built Lockbuster, the thought was we wanted to take the concept, push it into the past in that you were going to a video store, but shove it into the future in the sense that this is not the video store you're used to. This is something else.
And Mr. Manager is ever present as a animatronic robot overlord.
He sure is. And there may or may not be a bit of AI commentary built into that to make it a bit topical within the world that we're figuring out and navigating every single day as technology continues to change the way everything is shaped. So within Lockbuster, and if you haven't played Lockbuster, a core concept of the game is that you are trying to return your long overdue videotapes. They've been so overdue that you now owe millions of dollars, and your now AI robot overlord of the Lockbuster video is demanding that you go to work for him.
You're basically an indentured servant to a very old movie rental store.
This feels like an episode of Futurama.
It's very Futurama.
Ultimately, you get sucked into the back rooms of the video store, which happen to just transport you straight into the films that you're missing. These are allusions to films that we've all seen and experienced, alien sci-fi films, a pirate movie, an action adventure. And there are also allusions to other games that we've designed and built across our other locations, which makes it a fun little meta game within that, especially for people who've been and become fans of what we've done and what we've built.
Shifting to one of your games from Gurney Mills, I have to ask you about Duke's Farm. This is a delightful and silly adventure on a farm where things have not gone well at all. While playing it, I felt like you must have had the best time designing this game. What's the behind the scenes on this thing?
Duke's Farm was a pivot in a way. The concept was always what it is, but the original concept for it was Duke was like a undercover Russian spy running a farm stand, and that farm stand was a cover for his in the United States nuclear operation. The name was Nukes into Arms was the original thing, and so he scratches out the N, puts the D, adds the F, and it's Duke's Farm. And that was where we were building the original concept from. And then this is shortly after 2020, I guess COVID's still around, but we started to develop this concept. And that was around when the Russia-Ukraine conflict started. And it didn't feel like such a fun concept to just come out. We didn't want the game to feel political.
Yeah, the old Cold War tropes that felt good and dead don't land quite the same way as they used to.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was like, all right, let's shelve the idea. But I really liked the silliness of the name. So I was like, how can we rebrand this? How can we change what we're doing? So we scrapped everything we had worked on up to that point and started at the beginning. And a big thing about that is that there's so much bad in the world. We really wanted to lean into the absurd, make it something silly, make it something fun. So we kept the name and redid it from there, where you're dealing with this goofy Midwestern farm guy that just happens to have a farm on top of an old nuclear bunker that just leans into the absurd on the entire thing.
It's delightfully mad.
Yeah. And I think that's a fun thing about escape rooms is they let you tell a story in kind of a different or interesting way, more so than almost any other medium. You can bring somebody in on a premise and completely change what that is as you go through it and navigate it until you end up with something that's so silly and so absurd that if you put it on paper, no one would ever buy a ticket.
I agree. I love when escape rooms go into the absurd and the ridiculous because so many times it has to be this epic, you're saving the world. And sometimes I just want to save the little ducky that lost its mother. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't always have to be a big, crazy adventure.
And sometimes you're having a big, crazy adventure in a ridiculous set of circumstances, which is what Duke's Farm does.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that game. And I had said to Lisa at some point in the middle, it feels like they had fun making this game. And that was not a feeling I have often had. Like, a lot of my favorite games, I'm like, this is amazingly cool. But also it feels like it must have been arduous to build this. Throughout Duke's Farm, I was just like, they were just giggling while making this.
I was going to say, I was definitely giggling that whole time putting up those chickens. Just giggling through the whole thing.
What's ridiculous about the chickens?
I don't know. I just find chickens hilarious. We like birds. There's a lot of farm animal jokes in there that are hilarious. I make most of the puzzles. Like, I can sculpt, mold, cast. And so just making all of these ridiculous things for that game was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like with the chickens specifically, the whole thing in there is that it's a totally normal farm. Everything's fine.
Definitely nothing there is irradiated.
Yeah, nothing whatsoever. When we built it, it allowed us to tell a story just with its environment, not just in the things that you're doing along the way, which made it very fun to do. And I think a big part of that, when you say it seems like we were having fun when we were building it, I think a big part of that is that we were, because it seemed like a new beginning after a time that was particularly challenging. We had come out on the other end of all of our closures and everything else through COVID. And we're finally back to designing something new, designing something fun. And with all of the weirdness of the world that was going on, and then ultimately pivoting to something that was going to be a little more silly, I think we just went, you know what? Let's just be absurd with it. Let's go crazy and make something that's going to be truly fun and ridiculous. And it's not just fun and ridiculous because, well, escape room. It's fun and ridiculous just because I think that's what we needed at the time.
Finding 62 Escape was truly an incredible moment for me because we had been trying to figure out how to run a tour to Chicago and Champaign-Urbana for so long. And once we found 62 Escape, we knew we had the missing piece of the puzzle. What we didn't know was whether people were going to buy tickets. We're always a little bit nervous about that. No matter how many times we sell out these tours, we're always nervous when those tickets go on sale. But the truth is, they sell out so quickly. And Patreon is what gives you early access to buy those tickets before they get announced more broadly. Our Patreon community gets first dibs. And the different tiers provide different levels of access. But if you want to make sure that you can get a ticket to one of our tours, like the one that we ran to Chicago and Champaign-Urbana, well, the best way to do that is to join our Patreon community.
The tours are so much fun. They're an incredible value. They're very exclusive because they can only take so many people on these tours. And if you're somebody who's looking to play a lot of escape rooms, but you don't really have a whole friend group that's willing to drop everything and travel to different cities to play these games, the tour is for you. And, you know, having early tour access is great because it ensures that you're actually able to buy tickets for these tours because, believe me, they are highly sought after and they sell out. Every single tour sells out, so you don't want to miss it. And if you haven't gotten one, consider putting yourself on the wait list and check it out. It is super fun, and I hope to see you there.
Yeah, and it's not just about those games, it's about the people. That's the reason to come. The games are amazing, but the people are incredible. And so many of those folks are already supporting us. Patreon.com/roomescapeartist. Thank you to each and every one of you, and I hope that you think about becoming one. Stevie, you have alluded to a wide variety of maker skills. What are the different tools in your toolbox?
Oh, gosh. I can make most anything if we can't find what we need. For example, yeah, the apple in Duke's Farm is a glowing neon apple. So I had to make that. The pizza in Cheesy's is a puzzle. So I had to make pizza. And I think a lot of it, I had a big learning curve making so many things for the escape room because you really learn how tough people can be on props. And I've learned how to make things pretty much indestructible at this point. I often will make something and test the prop by going outside and throwing it straight down onto the concrete and making sure it lasts. That way it can last through tons of people accidentally dropping it if it can last through me throwing it straight at the ground.
So are the skill sets you're typically leaning on sculpting and painting?
I know how to sculpt, cast, paint, kind of the whole thing. I'm a special effects makeup artist, and that's what led me into this with my husband.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say it because I was like, there's an important thing she's leaving out here. It's that she's an incredibly talented sculptor and special effects makeup artist. So
That's what I was pulling out of her.
yeah, I was like, she's going to get there eventually, maybe. But Stevie can do just about anything with a wad of nothing. And it really just depends on what we're creating or what we need to make. But like she said, I just needed to make pizza. And that sounds so casual, but she needed to make a pizza that's all individually created to be able to be pieced together as a puzzle, contain RFID components, and ultimately function very well as a multi-pieced assembly puzzle. And she does that very well, not only from the conceptual stage of making sure the puzzle's going to work, but also coming through and making something that is truly indestructible. And also, it's very funny to watch her in a back hall of a mall whipping slices of resin pizza at a brick wall.
Stevie, we will explore your makeup and sculpting skills more later on, but I wanted to make sure that people really understood where you were coming from.
Yeah, I'm not good at tooting my own horn. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. You got some hype people here for you.
Speaking of ridiculous games, your Chuck E. Cheese parody, Cheesy's Pizza Party, with the aforementioned pizzas.
Any resemblance to Charles Entertainment Cheese is purely coincidental.
Yes, absolutely. So this game casts players as explorers breaking into a long-closed arcade. This game is both quietly ambitious with animatronic work, and it is a bit unhinged. And I am dying to learn more about this game.
Cheesy's Pizza Party. It's everything that it sets out to be, I think. It's also where we've branched off into some other stuff. David's holding up a plush of Cheesy right now. And I don't know that there's too many other venues that have created custom plush around one of the icon characters of their game.
It looks like a deranged mouse in a purple sequined tux jacket.
He's also got a microphone in his hand.
He does.
There'll be a photo in the show notes.
But, you know, Cheesy's Pizza Party is one of those concepts that I had in the back of my head for a really long time. It just is straight up a direct reference to my upbringing. I grew up in a family fun center, which is still operating. It's Kristof's Entertainment Center. It's in Round Lake Beach.
What? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's my family's place. They've been operating for over 50 years. Go-karts, miniature golf, large bar, restaurant, bowling, everything.
Okay, so this is like literally in your blood.
That's what I've done my entire life. I was born into it, and here I am still producing it.
Molded by it, shaped by it.
I was born in the darkness, shaped by it. But when it came to Cheesy's, that was really just a combination of something I had wanted to do for a really long time, fused with just leaning into that same nostalgia that we lean into with a lot of our games. The concept of going to a pizza place that has an animatronic show is something that's kind of a bygone concept, and the places that are still doing it are quickly phasing it out. It's becoming something you just simply can't do. When we built Cheesy's, we wanted to build something that was going to be a fun experience, but leaned a little bit into the creepiness, the horror elements of it, without it being something that was going to be unapproachable or too scary. We largely, despite our origins in the haunted house industry, if you go across our 3 locations, we only have one truly horror themed game that's bloody and dark in its approach, which is Containment in Gurney. And that's now our oldest game still standing. And it's still a substantial game, but it is our least popular. Despite horror being a popular concept across the industry, for us, especially with the wide audience that we reach out to, horror has largely underperformed for us. So with Cheesies, we wanted to do something that was going to lean into the dinginess, the grunginess of something that's old, abandoned, a little bit creepy, but leans more into the family fun side of that, the sneaking into the creepy neighbor's house, like Monster House or something like that. More the PG side of horror.
And it definitely achieves that. It feels like it's at a really playful intersection of the classic Chuck E. Cheese style arcade with the pizza party thing going on, a little bit of a nod of the horror of Five Nights at Freddy's and how creepy some of these animatronics and mascot costumes are if you look at them in the wrong lighting. It's a really fun space to explore.
Yeah, and in Cheesies, ultimately the showstopper piece of that game is, of course, Cheesy himself, which is a fully custom-built audio animatronic that we built from the ground up, from the pneumatics and steel armature that live inside of him to the costume and ultimately his overall appearance that Stevie was able to produce.
Built an entire animatronic from scratch. You didn't buy one and they just put a new skin on it?
Nope. Cheesy is ground up, built, fabricated, and created by us.
Why did you decide to go that route instead of buying an already built animatronic and, like I said, just costuming it?
Why buy it when you can build it? Cheesy needed to be a certain way. He had to be a certain height, a certain build. I needed an animatronic that could slump over and die, that could, move his arms and beckon you into the arcade. And he needed to be able to talk and move the mouth of a large rat latex face. And that product doesn't necessarily exist unless you create it yourself.
I gotta say, I generally dislike animatronics in escape rooms, and I loved the Cheesy animatronic. And I think that it was remarkably capable. It looked really compelling, but also the fact that it was supposed to be an animatronic. One of the struggles I often have with animatronics in escape rooms is believing that they're not animatronics when you spend so much time around them. And the fact that this was an animatronic functioning as a good animatronic.
Yeah, the character is an animatronic. It's not an animatronic trying to be an actual person.
Exactly. It all came together really well, and it's really cool. And you build some great moments around it as well.
And I think when it comes to the design and utilizing animatronics within our games, because Cheesy isn't the only one. Obviously, Mr. Manager is a very multi-motion animatronic.
And he pulls it off too.
So is Theo in Mystery Manor, which is a nice multi-motion talking head. I think for us, the biggest thing is that we lean into the capability of the animatronic itself and don't try and over leverage it. We don't try and make it something it isn't. It's integrated into the story in a way that makes it feel natural. And I don't have to sit here and interact with something that has been shoehorned in.
I don't think I fully appreciated at the time just how effectively you were using animatronics throughout your games. But yeah, I would say that you've really set a high bar for their use in escape rooms because I generally dislike them. And I ran the gamut of not even fully appreciating that there was a character that was an animatronic in one of your games to just generally enjoying the presence of the other two. It's really stellar.
Yeah, I think for us, a lot of it comes down to how it's customized, how Stevie's able to integrate them into the environment itself. And also, we try and design the game in a way that if the animatronic never existed, obviously it wouldn't work in the case of Cheesy, because the game's built literally around him. But we try and design it in a way that the audio work, everything that we do to tell that story, to build within it, exists separate to the animatronic itself, in the sense that we're building the story regardless, and then we're using something to enhance that storytelling rather than forcing ourselves to utilize something that we bought just because we think it's cool.
Shifting gears, your managers and employees are among the most impressive that I have seen in the escape room world, and I interact with a lot of companies. Everyone clearly cared about delivering the best possible experience for every customer, and they were also visibly empowered to act autonomously. What's your approach to building and managing a team?
On our end, like so many escape rooms, when we first opened, it was Stevie and I spending our life savings trying to build a business, try and build what we could. At some point, the concept and opportunity of growth became a reality, and we had to figure out how to make that function in a way that was elegant and good and continued to reflect the values that she and I have every day and what we want to produce, and also be able to let other people do that, like you say, that they're empowered to act autonomously. We've built a really great team of people, and to do that, it's all happened from within. They've been people that sought us out because they were passionate about what we do, and ultimately moved up within our companies as we've opened additional locations. For us, the big thing is making sure that our core company ethos exists and making sure everyone understands what that is. And on our end, it's to always produce a unique and first time experience for everybody that walks through the door. When any team member of ours works with a guest, the goal is to make it feel like it's their first time ever interacting with anything. In most instances with escape rooms, you're never going to do it again. The rare person will play a game multiple times, but when you step foot into any of our games, it's likely not only the first, but the last time you will ever be in that space. And because of that, we want everyone to always feel like it's their first time. That mentality has to start at the door. When people walk in, they need to be greeted like it's the first time we've ever met. We want them to feel welcomed and at home with the people that are there. We want them to feel open to ask questions. We want them to know that we're going to tailor that experience to them. And when they step in, we want the magic of what that room is, what the reveal is once you step foot into the room. We want that to be just as magical for our staff when they walk in as it is for the guest when they walk in. When we develop a new game, when we develop a new experience, we do the initial training on it. But ultimately, we leave certain bits of that experience up to them. We let them develop how they're going to introduce people to a space, how they're going to tell them about it. And then we work with them constantly. Even just before we're doing this recording now, we do a monthly all location meeting where we all get together and talk about how things are going in the locations, things we might want to change. And a big part of that across any of our businesses is to be democratic in how we handle things. We make our staff know that they have the ability to make change within our company. It's never just my way or the highway kind of thing. We want them to be able to influence change and growth within the company and know that their voices are heard. And that extends all the way through. And I think if we show them that respect at the top, they continue to reflect that same respect onto our guests when they walk in the door. And it's true. Like when a guest comes in, if they have feedback, good, bad, or otherwise, we want to hear it because that can create a ripple through our entire company that can make change for the better, whether it's a better refund policy or just letting us know that, hey, the fact that we go in and clean constantly is reflected on the overall experience.
You can feel it. You can feel absolutely all of that.
Yeah. Customer service is, for me, is like 40% of my experience at an escape room. So that's a super smart approach. What do you get when you mix pals, puzzles, and trivia? That's right. It's PG's Playhouse, our newest podcast where you can play along with our guests through some games featuring a blend of wordplay and trivia.
Then I share an interesting bit of trivia, lore, or history based on the episode's theme.
In episode 14, our game was guessing words that are made up entirely of two other unrelated words. So here's the puzzle for you. An incline that grows old and becomes a violent frenzy. Have you figured it out? Listen to the end of this segment for the answer.
Joke's on you, April Fool's Day. I can be fooled any day of the year. In this episode, I talk about the origins of April Fool's Day. which was created in 1872 by Sir James Arthur Fool. Or was it?
To listen to this episode and all the rest, check out PG's Playhouse, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can just search for PG's Playhouse or click the link in our show notes. Did you figure out the answer to an incline that grows old and becomes a frenzy? It's rampage. Ramp and age equals rampage. Did we fool ya? Now, let's talk a little bit about how your games get built. My understanding is that it's a pretty small team doing most of the work. So who is involved in design and construction for 62 Escape?
Like we addressed earlier, when it comes to design and construction, a big part of it is myself and Stevie. And then we have a guy, Patrick, that works very closely with us on the electronics side. But I mean, you're kind of looking at the whole team here.
Oh, just the two of you building all of your 20 games.
We've been deeply invested in all of them. Yeah.
That's incredible.
From the concept side, Stevie ends up being my fact checker, my hone me in kind of person. When we started design, it's usually just me arbitrarily spitting out nonsense for 2 months until I find something that seems like it's going to resonate. I'll kind of build out the story and build out the main narrative of what we're going to try and accomplish. And then at some point, she'll tell me, I don't know that I know what you're talking about anymore. And that'll signal me to hone it all in. Once I develop the primary narrative, I'll start working on the overall space design while she starts to think of puzzles that are going to fit into that world.
Mm-hmm. I have to hone Steven sometimes on his ideas because he has grandeur ideas and they're all great, but sometimes they're too great. And I'm like, people might get lost in that one. But yeah, the two of us, I think as a team works really well, where he is great at making just really cool concepts. And I'm not great at that, but boy, do I love puzzles. I'm a huge puzzle nerd. I've always been a big puzzle nerd since I was a kid. I play with Rubik's Cubes. I've played pretty much every escape game on cell phones that's available. So once he comes up with the overall idea, that's when I get to become the mad genius and fill in the puzzle parts. He also comes up with puzzles too, especially when I end up getting stuck on a puzzle that doesn't integrate well. He's always the one who helps me out on getting better integration of puzzles. And then, of course, I make almost all of our props and puzzles. When people play it, it isn't our employees in the back pressing a button. There's a few of them where they have to, but almost all of it is something where when they set it down or they do it, it actually solves it. So I have to integrate that into the puzzles to make sure that happens. And then the wiring, yeah, I don't touch. That's where Patrick comes in.
For us, a big part of the design concept when it comes to the puzzles themselves gets rooted in my knowledge of arcade machines. I've interacted with and fixed at this point thousands of commercially built arcade equipment. I've seen the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things, and the fix it on the fly way to do things. And we try and build to that standard. When we're building the set itself, it really just depends on time and space, who we're going to work with on the set itself. We're set designers and builders on our own. We do scenic design, we do scenic work. We've been hired to do that work and we've hired out to do that work. It all really just depends on how much is on our plate at the time. We've worked with some really incredible partners when we need to build sets and environments. And we've done everything from scratch in-house for other times. It really just depends on what's on our plate and how much we're able to do in-house or delegate. Delegating oftentimes being one of the harder things because it certainly necessitates, at least in the world of what we do, a lot more planning because the things can't change on the fly if I'm hiring out the set. And since we designed the game and the puzzle flow and everything else, all of that has to be completely finished and ready to be integrated for us to hire anything out. So a lot of the times we end up doing it in-house.
Besides your massive portfolio of escape rooms, You also have a significant haunt venue, the Realm of Terror Haunted House. How did you get into that business?
Long ago in the times of old. No. So we opened Realm of Terror, not we, I, in this instance. I
was not in the picture.
Yeah. So this is year 23 for Realm of Terror. We opened in 2003.
Oh, year number 23. For some reason, I thought you meant starting in 2023, but you meant 23 years ago.
23 years ago, I opened Realm of Terror, and it's still attached to the Family Fun Center. In 2016, I bought all of the assets and operate the show independently now, but it started as a family thing. I was 13 years old, presented my dad and my uncle with a business plan. I sat them down, did a PowerPoint presentation, and handed them like a 20-page business plan of how I thought a haunted house would be a feasible attraction addition to their existing mix at the FEC.
I literally almost jokingly said, what were you, like 13 years old?
I was like 13 years old, yeah.
I was wondering. I didn't want to ask.
So,
I was like, is there a portrait of you aging somewhere in an attic?
Right?
No, the portrait of me aging lives in my living room, but that's a separate story. I'll send you a picture of the portrait as well. But the haunt was just something that realistically, the way it started was I wanted to work at a haunted house and I was too young. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't go work at a haunted house because I was only 13 years old. So it was very much well, screw you, I'll build my own haunted house. And so I, at 13 years old, figured out how to write a business plan and built my own haunted house. Since then, we've grown, God, so many times to the point where the building we're in, we've outgrown so much that there's just literally no space within that structure anymore. We've spilled out into the other parts of the property. We've built this massive midway. We're actually right in the middle of haunted house season right now.
So you have a structure that permanently houses your haunted house. You don't take it down in between seasons?
This is not a home haunt. This is a proper haunt.
This is a proper haunt, but we have a permanent structure that houses a portion of the show. The part that can stay up does stay up, but then we get some grand idea to tear down a third of it and redo a bunch of it. But we have 1 month, so starting Labor Day up through opening night, to set up all of the exterior portions of our show. If we needed to put it all under one roof, it'd need to be about a 40,000 square foot building to house the entire show, which a large portion of that ends up in temporary structures like tents and things like that. So we spend some very hot months building sets under those tents in our parking lot or adjacent spaces, which then get torn down as modular set pieces and reassembled as part of the haunt proper in September.
How many guests go through your haunt?
Not enough. Specifically, we're in kind of a unique position where we're located in Illinois. There's a lot of haunted houses in the Chicago market. And if you head south from us at all, you run into any number of really great haunted attractions. If you head north from us, there's at least 2 or 3 really great haunted attractions. If you head west, you drive into Corn. And if you head east, you fall into Lake Michigan. We cater to a very local audience with our haunt. Although, that doesn't mean that our haunt hasn't been exposed to a national audience. A horror movie was filmed inside our haunted house, and that was released in 2024. You can watch it right now on Amazon Prime. That's called Haunt Season. And as a tie-in to this, the 62 Escape Gurney location, the Hidden Temple game, serves as a backdrop for one of the kills in that as well. You can watch some people die in an escape room. But we've been really fortunate to have some great relationships with other attractions around the country and world over the years. But certainly the escape rooms are definitely our primary business. The haunted house oftentimes kind of ends up being the hobby that barely pays for itself. But it's where our roots are. It's where she and I met. And ultimately something that is the core of where all of our friends and everyone we know and have grown to love kind of centralize themselves.
Oh, I assume, Stevie, were you doing the special effects makeup?
In 2012, I wanted to become a special effects makeup artist, but boy, was I rough at that point. But Steve was the first person who took a chance on me. And I got to start doing makeup at Realm of Terror. And then I became the makeup coordinator there. So now I have control of the makeup artist area. I've got 4 other great artists underneath me, and we get between 60 and 80 people into makeup every night within 2 hours.
Unbelievable.
She also continues to undersell herself. During that time, she also then went on to become an instructor at a special effects makeup school, ultimately ended up on the TV show Face Off, where she really produced some incredible things on that.
We're gonna get to Face Off.
Can't let her undersell herself. So
Now I'm blushing.
good thing it's a podcast.
Bonjour, it's Alex from Cogs. I'm learning French, you know. You may remember me from such Repod adverts as last week and the week before that. I've got another amazing person to tell you what it's like using Cogs for their immersive adventure. You're about to hear from Neil Connolly, creative director of Immersive Everywhere, the company that produced Peaky Blinders The Rise, Doctor Who Time Fracture, and most recently, The Traitors live experience, the official live experience of the popular TV show. Well, our UK version anyway. I caught up with Neil on set while he was doing some hoovering.
Cogs is fundamental to how we have created the show. I would like to say that part of the show was created around the capabilities of what the Cogs system can do. And candidly, I've been saying out in the industry to everyone else that the Cog system is the future of interactive live attractions, theatre, anything immersive, because it's the one thing that's really changing the game. Beyond the creativity that the Clockwork Dog brings and the Cog system itself brings, there's also those technical solutions that I really think that nobody else is really doing, and it offers so much malleability, especially during the creative process, all the way through tech, through to the final delivery.
Cheers, Neil. If you'd like to know more about Cogs, go to cogs.show or find us on Instagram or TikTok. We also have a YouTube channel called The Cogs Lab, where you can listen to our new podcast, Inventures. If you fancy giving us a go, get an exclusive 50% off our starter set plus free shipping by using the code REPOD, that's REPOD, at checkout. Merci, bonne journée. See, I'm getting quite good.
You also recently opened up a themed mini golf venue with a gentle layer of puzzling in your Schaumburg escape room facility. How's that business been going?
The miniature golf, so Putt Portal, is a themed miniature golf experience with puzzle elements built into it. It's been a learning experience that was always slated for the space that it's in the Schaumburg location. It took a lot longer for us to build and a lot more money for us to build than we ever expected it to be. The budget for that ended up nearly quadrupling throughout the conceptualization and ultimate execution of creating it.
What made it so much more expensive than you were expecting?
So my root is in the FEC world. For anyone who doesn't know, FEC is a family entertainment center. That's kind of the industry term. So I had some level of expectation of what a traditional miniature golf course would cost to build. But a traditional miniature golf course is some carpet, some bricks, and some balls, and you go out and you have a good time. But that's not how we do things. So we wanted, something that was going to be a more immersive experience. We wanted something that, when you go to each of the 9 holes within that, you feel like you're in an environment, you're able to take in each of those. And we wanted them all to be uniquely distinct. Unlike a regular miniature golf course, where if you were going to build a jungle themed mini golf, everything's jungle themed. You're able to fit everything into one bucket. You can maybe pick up a couple fiberglass structures that already exist, have a couple things custom made. In the end, you got a really great jungle themed mini golf. We wanted something that no one had seen before. We wanted holes that light up when the ball goes into them. We wanted lighting that interacts with the ball when it does things. We wanted sound effects integrated into each hole. We wanted big custom structures that allude to previous experiences. We wanted each hole to have different challenges. Most of the holes, half of the holes about, you don't even putt to start. You're dropping the ball and utilizing the structure to interact with the ball in a different way, whether you're dropping it into something or plunging it like a pinball or navigating it across a teetering bridge.
So it sounds like it was all of the customizations that you wanted to add. That's really what ballooned the budget.
Definitely. And ultimately finding a partner that would work with us on building that and understood the concept as a whole as well. So getting it to where it was, and ultimately in its completion, we had some durability issues and things like that with the way it was constructed. So then having to go back in and re-engineer things and change things to fit our standard, not just the standard of the people who built it, going back to some of those struggles of delegating.
You now have this portfolio with 3 escape room facilities, the mini golf, as well as the Haunt, on top of an FEC that I did not realize was in existence when I was researching for the episode. How do these experiential businesses fit together?
So the way all of the individual experiences fit together is more or less at their core. We don't necessarily advertise any or all of them together. We bucket everything into their individual brands. Realm of Terror is advertised as Realm of Terror. 62 Escape is advertised as 62 Escape, so on and so forth. And we do that so that the lines aren't necessarily blurred between them. We don't want our customer to necessarily think that 62 Escape is going to be a terrifying or scary experience. If we advertise that in conjunction with Realm of Terror, that starts to blur the lines of what that is. Similarly, when you go to Realm of Terror, it tends to be a more adult-focused experience that has food and drink offerings. It's an intense, overwhelming experience that doesn't necessarily lend itself to the family-focused audience of a birthday party and bowling venue. So we let each of our businesses stand as their own pillar, and then we use our back end, our structure, to support all of that. We build a solid foundation across everything, and then each business functions as its own pillar. And we do that even within the escape room locations. We don't have one general manager running 3 escape room venues. Each location has its own management team. That way, each location is always able to work independently, work on their own things. And then when there's anything that needs to be changed, or if we have a policy change, that happens at the foundational level. That way it continues to build on that foundation and never sets any one pillar up to take down the entire structure.
Makes sense. Where do you go from here?
Oh, look at the time. It's that's always the question, right? For us, we're a local company. We take a lot of pride in being local. We've certainly built kind of a wide net for ourselves. The next step really would be, if we were to expand, it would be to really expand, I think. It's just a question of, is that going to be the right move for us? And if we were to do it, if it was something we would do, you would start to see some of the repetition of the existing themes we have. We certainly have a large catalog of games, but at its root, I think for everything and across the board, everything we do, we try to do in a way that brings not only our guests joy, but ourselves joy. And if it was something that would potentially make the overall experience of any of the individual things fail, it might not be something we're necessarily interested in doing. It may branch off into consulting work or just continuing to focus in on the experiences that we have and build new ones within our existing bubble. It's hard to say, because the next step really is, it's not the next step, it's the next 30.
Scaling up from where you are becomes a very big undertaking and adds a lot of risk and overhead, and will change the nature of your jobs from managing some small businesses to managing a company that is managing a very large collection of small businesses, which is a fundamental shift.
For sure. If we were to expand the escape rooms, we would probably have to stop doing the Haunt. Or if we were to try and expand the Haunt, it would certainly hinder the ability to expand the escape rooms and so on and so forth. At some point, there is a push to the shove. But for us, it's, understanding what our team is, where those foundations are, and making sure that we're not adding cracks to the foundation where we really should be continuing to build out the individual pillars.
So I see here that we have more in common than just a love of escape rooms. You have both also spent quite a bit of time on reality TV competition shows. So, Stevie, I'm really curious to hear about your experience competing in prosthetic and makeup design with Face Off Season 9.
At this point, that was quite a long time ago. It's almost exactly 10 years to the date that was on TV. That was definitely quite the experience for me. I was still pretty new because it's been 10 years now. But back then, I was still pretty new to prosthetic makeups. So it was a big leap of faith to go on to the show. Steve here loves competition reality TV shows. Me, not so much. They seem a little more overwhelming. But I had already known people who had been on the show. I worked at Kozar Atelier with Anthony Kozar, who actually won season 4 of Face Off. And he helped me because the show approached me after some of my makeup went viral online. And so he helped me kind of mentally prepare to get on the show, along with Steve here, who was my boyfriend at the time. He really talked me up to go on it because he loves TV shows. And for me, watching the show, it is definitely a show that's more focused on the art than the drama. So that's what gave me the courage to go on to it.
You definitely do not seem like the kind of person who would want to be cast or would be cast on a reality show that was really focused on interpersonal drama.
Yeah, no, not into that.
And that's a compliment.
What are you trying to say, David? My show is all about interpersonal gossip and competitions. Yeah, actually, the last time I was on Survivor was, I think, the same year. It must have been the same year that you did Face Off, because it was also 10 years ago that Second Chances came out. But I see you did very good. I see what you mean, Steve, about Stevie underselling herself, because you placed, what, 6 out of 16th? I placed 5th out of 16 on my first season of Survivor, and I feel like I did extraordinarily well.
Yeah, I actually ended up only missing 1 episode because then they brought me back for the finale. So I am very proud of myself for where I got on the show. And it was a huge learning experience. I would definitely do it again. I don't regret it at all. I made a lot of great friends on that show. So I loved the experience overall. You know, you don't know until you go on a show like that. And I'm sure you have the experience, like being totally sequestered from your family was very intense. If people don't know what sequestered means, when I went on the show, it was 3 months that we were filming, and I did not have a cell phone. I could not contact family. We didn't have TV. We couldn't watch movies. We didn't know anything that was going on in the real world.
Beyond Face Off, I am curious to hear about the joys of costuming, because looking at your social media, you both have made some really cool costumes together.
So I am a big old nerd, and I have been going to an anime convention in the Midwest called Anime Central since I was 16 years old. So I think that's kind of what ended up getting me into haunted houses. Was I loved cosplaying. And then I learned that you can do that more than just at a con, and you can do that all month long in October. I love dressing up as different characters, especially spooky characters. And then that kind of evolved from there. Steve ended up getting sucked into it with me. He loves dressing up for the haunt more so than for cosplay conventions.
I just like playing a character. Give me a character I can play and I'm all in. I do all the voice work for the escape rooms across all of the games, any of the voices, short of anyone that is like distinctly female, is me. So
it's because Steve just is a character in real life.
That's clearly true.
We'll link to Stevie's Instagram with photos of all of the amazing costumes, but we'll also have a few photos in the show notes. So, Steve, back in 2019, you won an episode of the over-the-top mini golf competition show, Holey Moley. What was that experience like for you?
it was an over-the-top miniature golf show. That was a bunch of fun. It's not the only game show I've been on. I was on a different show a couple years prior to that called Hypnotize Me. That was like a spin-off of a European hypnosis show called You're Back in the Room. But Holey Moley, it was just a lot of fun. I think they picked me for the show because I grew up above a miniature golf course.
You have an unfair advantage. You basically were born with a putter in your hands, probably.
Yeah, but I'm not good at sports.
A lot of golfers aren't good at sports.
That's fair too. But everybody assumes that growing up above a bowling alley, I'd be good at bowling. And I've got like a 120 average. That's not. But with the mini golf shows, I actually was applying to go on Wipeout, and I had applied for Wipeout, I don't know how many times, and they found it was the same people producing the show. So they found my application through that, and they were like, hey, your story works better for this show. You should apply for this show. Ultimately ended up winning. But the whole reason I was there, the whole reason I wanted to do it is, with any game show, I mean, I'm sure you had the same experience with Survivor. It's something you can't pay to do. It's a one-of-a-kind experience that no one else gets to do. No one can pay to go on the show. You can't just show up to the giant miniature golf TV set and say, hey, can I pay $15 to go play this? And they're like, yeah, here you go. Here's your putter. Knock yourself out. Literally.
So they're like the challenge of it also.
Yeah, it was a very fun thing to be a part of. And for me, I was just there to have fun. I was there to take part in it. Never did I ever think I would win. And I almost lost, but spoiler alert, I won, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'd sign up to be on any game show ever again. I don't care what it is. Put me on Naked and Afraid. I'll have fun.
Steve and Stevie, what comes next for the two of you?
We have to build the 7th game in Schaumburg.
Yeah, we've got space for one more game in the Schaumburg location, which I'm currently in the spout random nonsense for 2 months phase. We're nearing the end of that, though.
Yeah.
I think we've honed in on a theme, and then we're gonna try and stretch our legs on this one a little bit. We're gonna try and make a game that's gonna be playable multiple ways with completely different sets of puzzles and interactions and environment within the same set. So tell 2 different stories, a game that you can play it from 2 different perspectives, which will be really fun.
He's really setting me up for a giant whiteboard, me going crazy with a lot of lines everywhere saying like, all right, I think this works.
Interesting concept. So if our listeners want to follow your work, check out your Instagram, connect with you, where can they do so?
There's not a lot of ways to connect with me. I'm not very active on social media, but check out any of the business pages. So 62escape.com, realmofterror.com, lakecountyfun.com. Any of those will bring you to any of the venues that I actively help manage and operate. And for Stevie,
For me, my user tag on everything is as seen on Stevie, kind of as seen on TV, but Stevie.
Oh, that's pretty good.
But it's also my website, which is asseenonstevie.com. So I've branded myself one way for everything.
Well, that's great. I'll have links to all of that in the show notes.
Stevie, Steven, thank you both for joining us. Steven, I had the chance to spend a lot of time talking to you while we were running the tour. In fact, every time we ended up in the same orbit, I was like, oh, we'll talk for 5 minutes. And then I looked at my phone and realized we had talked for like 40. And I've said this to you already, but I was just so blown away by the level of quality of the staffing and the management, the level of care that I felt every second I spent in one of your facilities. And I don't often get to experience that. And talking to you and learning about where that was coming from, it became very clear. And that was so much of why I was looking forward to talking to you today on the show. And Stevie, I didn't get a chance to meet you beforehand, but seeing your work both in the games and then also in researching for the episode, I had just been so continually impressed by the creativity and the understanding that you show of the different mediums that you work with, and watching the way that your work changes within that context has been really impressive. And hearing your thought process as we've gotten to explore it today has really lived up to everything I was hoping for. So thank you both for joining us. And yeah, I just can't wait to play your next game.
We can't wait to build it.
This episode of Reality Escape Pod is produced by Teresa Piazza with support by Lisa Spira and goofy Midwestern farm guy Richard Burns. We're edited by Steve Ewing of Stand Inside Media, music by Ryan Elder, logo by Janine Proct, and all of this is brought to you by RoomEscapeArtist.com, your home for well-researched, rational, and reasonably humorous escape room and immersive gaming content and events. Thank you to all of our highest tier Patreon supporters: Chris Laughlin, Panic Room, Olivier Escape, Escaparium, Breakout Games, Derek Tam, Andy Mincer, Mystery Unfolds, Karen, Byron Delmonico, Keystone Escape Games, and Rex Miller. Thank you to all of you for your ongoing support.
If you've made it all the way to the end of the episode, you're still here, looks like you had a pretty good time listening, we would love it if you took that good time and left us a review. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It helps with making people find our podcast, and it even helps us with getting guests on the show.
And if writing a review is a bridge too far, just share the link to an episode that you like with someone who you think will appreciate it. Word of mouth, that is the thing that helps us grow. Thank you so much for supporting us, however you're doing it, whether it is on Patreon, with a review, or just sharing a link. We appreciate you.
So there was a time we were playing a time machine themed escape room, and it started out in a Western village, and about halfway through the game you end up in a secondary spot, and I'm usually pretty in tune with the theme. I'm not the puzzle guy, so I was just vibing, and I walked into the next room, and the next room was like outer space themed, and I must have stood in that room for like 5 minutes, and everyone's like, "Steve, what's going on?" I just looked at him and went, "What the hell is going on?" And they were like, "Steve, it's a time machine." And I went, "Oh." And that's about one of the, I don't know, the least proud moments I've had in an escape room, where I just lost track of what was going on entirely. I was all in on Western, and there I was.
I got to be the one who was like, "Steve, remember, the whole theme was time machine."